Chapter 665, Shifu. This chapter is updated by novels.pl. The sword technique Zhang Yuochen wielded was ingenious. Even though it did not seem to be any specific move, it was, in fact, extremely powerful. The crowd was taken by surprise. How could Lin Yui's Tao of the Sword be at such a formidable level? Hanku lifted one of her slender fingers to touch her red lips as she smiled attractively and said, "It was inconceivable that Lin Yui would be able to perform such impressive sword technique even if he had practiced for 100 years. Such a display of valiance. He must be a sword fairy from heaven." What Hanku saw as Lin Yui battled the three gatekeepers was a familiar figure who coincided with someone she had in mind. Swoosh. The blue crystal sword and the valley water sword flew back into their sheaths. From the beginning till the end, Zhang Yuochen's feet did not budge. His every move was relaxed and graceful. Following their retreat, the three gatekeepers immediately organized themselves into the three stars sword array. Their bodies began rotating at a high speed, sweeping up pebbles and dried leaves to form three 1-foot diameter pillars of sword chi. The three gatekeepers each set their footwork at the centers of the chi pillars as they once again charged toward Zhang Yuochen. "Haven't I passed the challenge yet?" Zhang Yuochen frowned as he dashed toward the three sword chi pillars in offense. Zhang Yuochen intended to end this battle quickly in order to conserve genuine chi. Swoosh. Zhang Yuochen drew out the valley water sword, and in three consecutive bodily transformations, he wielded three moves in his sword technique, namely a chop, a lift, and a wham. Each of these moves seemed very simple as Zhang Yuochen moved with ease and confidence. The next moment, he had dashed through the three sword chi pillars and come to stand firmly on the other side. Glang, glang, glang. The three sword chi pillars instantly broke into pieces. The three gatekeepers in the chi pillars transformed into three streaks of white holy chi that flew back onto the stone wall and turned back into three characters. Breakthrough successful. A tiny voice sounded from within the stone wall. Zhang Yuochen retracted his arm and put the valley water sword back into its sheath, saying, "Challenging three characters is really not easy. Fortunately, I had help from the valley water sword." "Thanks, elder brother Xu, for the gift." Zhang Yuochen then continued on his journey without looking back. He trod on the mountain path leading toward the second-level mountain. This guy is not even worried about offending Zhu Chenxing. A smile broke out on Qindong's usually expressionless face. Having witnessed Zhang Yuochen's level of cultivation in the Tao of the Sword, Qindong finally realized that he had underestimated Zhang Yuochen and that he might really succeed in ascending the second-level mountain given his capability. Qindong was rather glad that Long Living Yard had produced such an outstanding talent. A novice saint's disciple succeeded in challenging three characters. On top of that, he has also reached the seventh realm of Sword 1. All disciples of the Yin and Yang sect will be stunned when this news reaches them tonight, said an elderly saint's disciple who had reached the ninth change in the fish-dragon realm. He has indeed suffered a great loss. Qin Yufan glanced at Xu Chenxing, not knowing whether to laugh or not. Everyone had seen Xu Chenxing's intention to bring Lin Yui down, but instead, he himself was brought low. Not only did his pride get bruised before Hanku, but he had also even given away his valley water sword. Xu Chenxing's eyes were bloodshot. He clenched his fists and snorted as he dashed onto the mountain path leading to the second-level mountain. He quickened his steps in an attempt to catch up with Zhang Yuochen. Hanku said, "I hope senior brother apprentice Xu won't do anything extreme in his fit of anger." The other saint's disciples were worried as well. If Xu Chenxing were to kill Lin Yui in a fit of anger, Yin and Yang sect would lose two of its geniuses. Saints' disciples losing their lives at the ancient gods' mountains happened almost every month. Apart from accidents, there were saints' disciples who lost their lives due to jealousy and revenge. "Continue to break through the challenges while I go check it out," said Shifu. Shifu had broken through the first stage of the second-level mountain long ago, but she had stayed back to observe Qin Yufan and Xu Chenxing's capabilities in preparation for the sword contest. This was the reason she did not continue on to the second stage midway up the mountain. Wah! Shifu's slender body was light and flexible. With a gentle push, she leapt toward the mountain path leading to the second-level mountain as she tried to catch up with Zhang Yuochen and Xu Chenxing. The saint's disciples looked on with admiration at Shifu, as if she were a beautiful sight. One saint's disciple who had reached the 7th change in the fish-dragon realm asked, "How many characters did Shifu challenge earlier on?" "We're not sure, because she was the first person to arrive at the 2nd level mountain. She had already passed the first stage of the challenge when we arrived." The crowd shook their heads in unison. Not even one of them had seen how Shifu passed the first stage of the 2nd level mountain. Zhang Yuochen ascended the mountain with great speed, and very soon, he had reached an altitude of 2,000 meters on the 2nd level mountain. Looking down, the foot of the mountain was no longer visible. There were layers of white fog in the air that obstructed the vision. It even prevented spiritual power from penetrating. As Xu Chenxing caught up, he leapt from the cliff and landed in front of Zhang Yuochen, blocking his way. Xu Chenxing said in a low voice, "Bastard, are you pretending to be a hog that eats the tiger? Don't think about ascending the 2nd level mountain if you don't hand me the Valley Water Sword." Zhang Yuochen stopped in his tracks and said, "Why, is senior brother apprentice Xu such a petty man? Are you asking for the sword back after giving it away?" Xu Chenxing was burning with rage to the point of exploding. The genuine chi within him surged toward the meridians of his hands and condensed in his palms. Zhang Yuochen was not even a bit afraid upon seeing how enraged Xu Chenxing was. He smiled and shook his head. He had overestimated Xu Chenxing initially. He totally did not expect Xu Chenxing to be so immature that he was unable to control his own temper. Shifu approached on a cloud not far away. She came to rest at the top of a cliff 20 feet from them. Xu Chenxing stole a glance at Shifu, retrieved his genuine chi, and snorted. "I can't deny that you are really quite capable. However, I have to take the Valley Water Sword back. How about we have a bet? If you lose, give the Valley Water Sword back to me." Zhang Yuochen turned to glance at Shifu before replying. Not interested. Xu Chenxing clenched his fists. There was a cold look in his eyes. He would have struck Zhang Yuochen if Shifu were not around. Even if he were unable to take Zhang Yuochen's life, he would have paralyzed him by breaking his tendons and bones. "Looks like you have created enmity between us today, Lin Yue. I am going to make you regret what you've done." At the Tower of the Sword contest, Xu Chenxing's murderous intent was reflected in his eyes. He snorted and hurriedly embarked on his journey up the mountain. In an instant, he disappeared around the steep wall at the end of the mountain path. Shifu's bewitching voice sounded from Zhang Yuochen's back. "You shouldn't have offended Xu Chenxing. You could have appeased him by returning his Valley Water Sword." Zhang Yuochen detected a fragrant scent in the air and he turned around to catch a glimpse at Shifu. He said, "Honestly, I don't really care about this Valley Water Sword. However, I know that Xu Chenxing will not let me off even if I were to return the Valley Water Sword to him." After all, he had deeply embarrassed himself in front of a crowd. "You are right, no doubt." However, Xu Chenxing is backed by his powerful family. Both the powerful family of Xu Saints and the Yin and Yang sect are extremely influential. You are putting yourself in a precarious position within the Yin and Yang sect by offending him. With an elegant and graceful demeanor, Shifu was as beautiful as a pale green orchid by the cliff. She walked up to Zhang Yuochen and stopped 3 feet away from him. She had a full bosom and a slender waist trapped in a white waistband. "You are indeed naturally talented in the Tower of the Sword, so there is a high chance that you will be able to cultivate Sword 1 to reach the 10th level of the completion realm," said Shifu. "My family of Kiz is a historically established aristocratic family in the Middle Age. If you are willing to join the Kiz, I can introduce you to the family's leader and make you the elder Keking. Then I can guarantee that the powerful family of the Xus will not dare to touch you." Shifu's eyes were so bewitching they looked like a pair of black pearls submerged in water. Her eyes alone would be able to melt any man's heart who could bear to reject her. Zhang Yuochen felt that Shifu's eyes were effusing some kind of controlling force over his spiritual power. Fortunately, he realized this in time to resist this strange force by using his spiritual power. It was rather strange that Shifu, such an elegant and outstanding lady, was actually practicing such black magic. Zhang Yuochen closed his eyes to shut out her stare. Keeping his vigilance, he said, "Senior Sister Apprentice Chi, have you come all this way to invite me to join the Kiz? I thought you caught up with me to save my life from Xu Chenxing. I really admire your talent. With the help of the Kiz, you stand a great chance of becoming a respectable sword saint. However, Without the help of the Kiz, you might be killed before your talent is fully developed, said Chifu impassively. Thank you for your kind intentions, senior sister apprentice Chi. Unfortunately, I only wish to cultivate myself quietly under the Yin and Yang sect. I have no desire to join any other family. Zhang Yuochen continued his ascent along the mountain path in an unhurried manner. Sometimes, one ought to choose wisely. I could only pity you for being so adamant about choosing a path leading to death. A scarlet light flashed across Chifu's pupils as she leapt forward. As she lifted her index finger, her fingernail extended into a 3-foot-long thin sword directed at Zhang Yuochen's back. Their proximity coupled with Chifu's speed of light attack allowed the tip of Chifu's sword to reach Zhang Yuochen almost instantly. Zhang Yuochen had long sensed a sinister aura about Chifu, so he had been on his guard all this while. Therefore, Zhang Yuochen also struck out at the same instant Chifu did. While he did not manage to draw the Valley Water sword out of its sheath in time, he swung the hilt of the sword forward, thereby hitting and deflected Chifu's sword. Glang! As the hilt of his sword collided with the thin sword, waves of sword chi rippled outward in every direction.